There's a psychological principle discovered by a Nobel Prize winning scientist that explains exactly why some agents get referral after referral from the same clients and why others do everything right during a transaction and never hear from that client again. It has nothing to do with how hard you worked, nothing to do with your negotiation skills, your marketing, or even how much the client liked you throughout the process. It comes down to two specific moments, and most agents in this industry are completely unaware of either one. My name is Michael Coxen. This is Mindful Agent. And today we're talking about the psychology of memory and what it means for every client relationship you're building right now. Welcome to Mindful Agent, where real estate success meets health, mindfulness, and personal growth. Join me, Michael Coxen, real estate broker, coach, and co-founder of Coxen and King, as I explore the intersection of wellness and business excellence, helping you thrive in both real estate and life. So, to understand why this matters, I need to take you back to a research lab in the early 1990s, because what was discovered there quietly explains one of the biggest problems in real estate that nobody is talking about. Daniel Kahneman is a psychologist who won the Nobel Prize in economics, not for financial theory, it's for his work on how human beings actually make decisions, and more specifically, how we remember experiences. He ran a series of experiments studying people who had undergone uncomfortable medical procedures. And what he found was counterintuitive. When people were asked to rate how painful or unpleasant an experience was, the rating had almost nothing to do with how long it lasted or what the average level of discomfort was throughout. What actually determined how they remembered it came down to two moments: the peak, which is the most intense moment, positive or negative, and the end. That's it. Two moments out of the entire experience. Everything else essentially faded. And he called it the peak end rule. And here's why that should stop every real estate agent in their tracks. Your clients are not remembering your transaction the way you think they are or the way you are. They're not averaging every showing, every negotiation update, and every problem you solved along the way. They are remembering the moment that hit the hardest, the peak, and they are remembering how it ended. If the peak was the moment you called them to say their offer got accepted, or the moment they walked into their new home for the first time with the keys in hand, that memory is vivid. That memory is emotional. That memory is yours. But if the ending was a rushed closing table, a generic thank you card, and then silence, that's also what they remember. And that ending is quietly undoing everything that came before it, no matter how great it was. So let's bring this into a real scenario, because when I started thinking about my own career through this lens, something became very clear to me. And I think it's going to land the same way for you. I've built my entire business and I've built systems around nurturing relationships with clients, because people don't buy and sell homes very often. So my goal is that when the time comes, if someone asks them who their agent was, I want them to not only remember me, which is the first and most critical step, but recommend me confidently. And obviously, when they want to buy or sell again, they think of me too. So I make sure in every deal I do something memorable. And I'm not talking about balloons at the closing table, but about advocating for them strongly and giving unselfish advice. And when I finally hand them the keys, yes, I do like to give them a gift because they've earned it. Buying or selling a house is full of anxiety and stress, and a little reward at the end is gratifying. Almost all my business now comes from past client referrals and repeat business. I am at the moment spending $0 on advertising. So this philosophy works. And there's a pattern I've seen repeat itself across over 15 years in this business. An agent works incredibly hard throughout a transaction. They're responsive, they're skilled, they solve problems the client never even knew existed. The client is genuinely impressed. And then the deal closes, the agent sends a nice gift and moves on to the next lead and the next deal. 3 years later, that client's ready to buy again, or their brother is relocating to Vegas and they try to remember the agent's name. They remember liking them, they remember the experience being good, but the name isn't there. The face isn't sharp because the ending didn't create a memory strong enough to hold. Now, think about the opposite. An agent who understands that the closing is not the finish line, it's the peak, the emotional high point, the moment the client is most open, most grateful, most connected to you. What if instead of stepping back at that moment, you stepped forward? What if the closing table was treated as the beginning of the relationship, not the end of the transaction? A handwritten note placed inside the home before they arrive for the first time. That's a nice idea. Or a call 2 weeks later just to ask how it feels to be in the new space. Remembering that they mentioned their daughter was going to finally have her own room and asking how she's settling in. Those touches happen and they happen at and after the peak. They extend the peak and they create an ending that the client actually remembers. And here's what Kahneman's research also tells us. And this is the part that most people miss when they first encounter the peak end rule. So, alongside the peak end rule, he identified something he called duration neglect. Duration neglect is the length of an experience has almost no effect on how it's remembered. So a transaction that took 6 months is not remembered 6 times more as a 1 month transaction. What's remembered is the shape of the experience, those two anchor points, not how long it lasted. Peak and end. That's what's remembered. So this has a direct implication for how you think about your time and your effort. Agents often justify losing touch with past clients because the transaction was a long time ago, 6 months, a year, 6 years. They feel like too much time has passed, like reaching out will be awkward, like the window is closed. Sound like you? But the client isn't storing a detailed chronological record of your relationship. They're holding two emotional snapshots, the peak and the end, which means a single intentional moment, the right call at the right time, a message that shows you actually remembered something specific about them can reopen that relationship. Not because you've been consistent for 2 years, because that one moment becomes a new peak and a new ending. This is why some agents can go quiet for 6 months and send one genuinely thoughtful message and get a referral the same week. And why other agents who blast their entire database every month with generic market updates get nothing back. It's not frequency, it's intentionality. It's whether the moment you create actually lands with emotional weight. So, what do you actually do with this? Here's a takeaway. Here's how I would think about applying the peak end rule practically inside of your business. I'm going to give you three things. First, engineer the peak deliberately. Don't leave the emotional high point of your transaction to chance. Think about where in your process the client is going to feel the most. The accepted offer, maybe, the moment they walk through the door for the first time as owners, the keys. Those moments are yours to shape. What you do in that moment, how present you are, what you say, whether you're distracted or fully there, determines the sharpest memory they will carry. And I know I could do a better job of that. So most agents are so relieved the deal closed that they check out mentally right at the moment that matters most. Don't be fully there. Let them feel this moment matters to you too. The second thing, design the ending. The closing, again, is not the ending. The ending is the last emotional impression that you will leave, and you get to decide what that is and what it feels like. A call a few weeks after closing asking how they're settling in, that's an ending. A handwritten note on the 6 month mark, that's an ending. The point is, you're choosing it intentionally, not letting it happen by happenstance, accident, or chance. Lastly, create new peaks over time. So the relationship doesn't have to live on one peak and one ending forever. To get clients for life, you need constant new peak moments. Whether they need to hear from you, give it from a market update or news in the community, deliver something personally on their home anniversary, that recommendation for a plumber that solved the problem 8 months ago, you remembered and follow up on that. How are the new reverse osmosis systems treating you? How is the new water softener? These are the little details that keep the relationship alive. And this isn't just about client retention. It applies to everything. How you show up in conversation, how you end every interaction, and how you're remembered by every person that you work with. If this way of thinking resonates with you, there's another episode of Mindful Agent I'd point you toward next. It's called If I Started Over in Real Estate, I Would Do This. I break down the exact blueprint I'd follow if I had to start over as a real estate agent today. So follow the show wherever you listen so you don't miss what's coming next. And if this episode hit home, share it with one agent in your life who needs to hear it. That's the best way to keep this community growing. Until next time, I am in your corner. And remember, success starts within. Thanks for joining me on this journey today. I'm Michael Coxen, and this is Mindful Agent. Join me next time as we continue to explore the intersection of real estate, health, and mindfulness.